U.S. government have a hand in September 11th? Rosie O'Donnell is talking conspiracy, and that has some trying to get her fired, saying spouting her view was irresponsible. But is there any evidence that she could be onto something? Prime News starts now. Coming up on Prime News, Rosie O'Donnell is at it again, stirring up controversy. Sure, you'd say that's pretty much her job. This time, though, really hitting a raw nerve, saying there was conspiracy behind the September 11th attacks. We'll take a look. First, Rosie O'Donnell's latest rant has her critics labeling the talk show host un-American and calling for ABC to fire her. So just what has them so riled up? Last week on The View, she shared her bold conspiracy theory about the September 11th attacks.
Do you believe that the government had anything to do with the attack of 9/11? Do you believe in a conspiracy in terms of the attack of 9/11?
No, but I do believe that it is the first time in history that fire has ever melted steel. I do believe that it defies physics for the World Trade Center Tower 7, Building 7, which collapsed in on itself. It is impossible for a building to fall the way it fell without explosives being involved. World Trade Center 7. World Trader 1 and 2 got hit by planes. 7, miraculously, the first time in history, steel was melted by fire. It is physically impossible.
And who do you think is responsible for that?
I have no idea. But to say that we don't know that it imploded and it was an implosion and a demolition is beyond ignorant. Look at the films. Get a physics expert here from Yale, from Harvard. Pick the school. It defies reason.
Let's get one. Let's get one, because that
I would do it.
Is the unthinkable.
While Rosie's theory may sound outrageous to you, she's not alone. We won't have an official report on that building's collapse until sometime later this year. But Rosie's conspiracy theory about explosive blowing up Tower 7, it turns out, was actually debunked long ago. The science and technology magazine Popular Mechanics outlined why she is wrong in a past report and has brought it back up on its website. Editor-in-Chief James Miegs joins us tonight from New York. Okay, so you debunked this theory in the past. Tell us, why is Rosie O'Donnell's theory wrong?
Well, you know, Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan used to say everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but they're not entitled to their own facts. And the problem here is she just has her facts wrong. You don't need for steel to melt for a building to collapse when there's a fire. You just need for it to be weakened, and that's what happened in this case. We also know from talking to a whole battery of the country's top engineering experts, architects, fire safety experts, that in the course of investigating this collapse, they've seen that the building was quite heavily damaged by the collapse of nearby North Tower in the World Trade Center. That falling debris damaged World Trade Center 7 very severely, more than was known at first. And then that ignited fires. It raged inside the building for about 7 hours. And these fires were fed by diesel fuel that was in tanks there to power backup emergency generators. Instead, they fueled a very intense fire that engineers believe ultimately weakened the beams inside the building until the building literally collapsed from the inside out.
Okay, so just to recap then, in terms of what she said, you were saying that, in fact, yes, fire can melt steel, and that no, Building 7's collapse doesn't defy the laws of physics, though. She also brought up explosives, saying that there's no way this building could have imploded without explosives inside.
You know, actually at Popular Mechanics, we've talked to the country's top demolition experts, and they think the idea that somebody could sneak a bunch of, demolition charges into a building in the middle of the night somehow is just laughable. It takes months to wire a massive skyscraper for demolition. It's not something you could just send a crew in, in secret to accomplish. But the fact is that a lot of people who know nothing about engineering have lots of speculation, say, oh, the building couldn't fall like this, it fell too fast, it fell into its own footprint. The fact is, when you drop a heavy weight over the surface of the earth, it does fall straight down. That's what these buildings did. That's what buildings do when they fall down. It's not a cartoon. They don't topple over. And the analysis that's being done, and the people at NIST, the Commerce Department agency that's doing this research, have shared their research with us. They've shared it with the public. Their analysis is that there were beams in that building that carried unusually high loads and were unusually vulnerable to damage and to failure because of heat. The steel doesn't need to melt, but it does soften up a little bit, and that's enough for the building to collapse.
Just that weakening. Why, in a lot of these conspiracy theories, there's a lot of stuff online about this, why is there always so much focus on Building 7 specifically?
Well, because conspiracy theories love a vacuum. At first, there wasn't as much information on World Trade Center 7, and as you mentioned, NIST still hasn't released their final report. So when there's less evidence, conspiracy theorists love to supply their own hypotheses, no matter how far-fetched, that some secret group was in there wiring the building or something like that. how a building would be wired to be demolished at the on the very day that some terrorists also flew some jets into some nearby buildings doesn't seem to be part of the explanation. But if you really dig into any of these, the facts just simply don't add up, and we've spent 2 years looking into these.
James Miegs, editor-in-chief of Popular Mechanics, thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Now, Rosie's radical 9/11 conspiracy theory may seem a little out there to you, but does she really deserve to be fired for speaking her mind? The website StopRosie.com is calling for a boycott of Rosie and The View. Ethan Czahor put the website up 2 days ago and says he already has more than 15,000 signatures on his online petition. I've been following it all afternoon, Ethan. It's really been growing for you. You're joining us tonight from New York. Tell us, why do you think ABC should fire Rosie?
I don't think ABC should fire Rosie because of what she says. What the website calls for is that the people will stop watching the show, taking away her audience, then giving them a reason to can her.
Well, in terms of taking away that show, on the website, you say that your mission is to, quote, raise awareness of the anti-American rhetoric being displayed in the mainstream media today and show that we as American citizens will not tolerate an anti-American individual occupying national airtime. If the mission, though, is to take that person off and essentially censor free speech, isn't that anti-American?
No, because we're not trying to censor anyone. We're calling on the people to stop watching the show. You know, if you write a book and no one buys your book, it's not being censored because it's not being published anymore. If no one watches the show and she gets fired, that's not censorship, that's free market capitalism.
Is your website, though, actually maybe giving the show more viewers than they would have had? Because people are smart enough to turn the channel on their own.
They certainly are, and that may be happening. I certainly can't control that. I'm not really trying to change minds with the website. I'm trying to find people with views similar to mine to get their name on the petition, to have them sign that.
Do you feel that viewers should be upset with either ABC, the employer, or Rosie herself?
I feel they could be upset with the sponsors. I don't have a definite list of the sponsors. If I did, I'd certainly post those as well. With ABC, if they're making money off of her, it's rational to leave her on. I can't necessarily fault them for that. I do fault the viewers who enable ABC to leave her on, though.
How do you think those viewers are enabling? Just by watching? Just by giving them numbers?
By giving her the ratings, by letting her sell the ads.
Now, some people might say, hey, you know what, you disagree with her viewpoint, but I disagree with someone else on The View who gives a completely different viewpoint from Rosie's. Isn't that the whole point of the show, to get different viewpoints out there?
Certainly. The show is called The View. There's plenty of views, plenty of opinions, but she's not presenting her views as opinions. She's presenting her views as facts. And she's not saying I believe, she's not saying I think. She's essentially telling facts, which are just lies. They're not true. And that's not a view.
Have you gotten the view from the folks at ABC at all on your website? I know it's only been a couple of days, but have they contacted you?
I have not, no.
Have you contacted them?
I have not. I would be welcome to contact them, though.
How long do you think you're going to keep the site up? Do you have a goal in mind for the number of names on that petition?
An immediate goal, I would love to see over 100,000, and from there, I have no idea.
All right, Ethan Czahor will be keeping an eye on it from StopRosie.com. Thanks.
Thank you.